Welcome to the European Youth Media Days 2013. This is the annual event of the European Youth Press, hosted at the European Parliament. My name is Lina Otgård.
And I'm Silvia Amaro. This year's topic is National Problems, European Solutions. The event covers the latest from the European and national policies. Learn more about the European Youth Media Days from our report.
Reporting from Brussels, being a European correspondent is the dream of many young, inspiring journalists. Every year, the 100 best young media makers are chosen to come here, at the heart and soul of the Union politics, the European Parliament in Brussels. They are participants at the European Youth Media Days, where they learn what is it like to be an EU correspondent.
Through 3 days of media workshops, political discussions and hands-on media production, the participants get valuable insights to the European Parliament and media. They interact with high-level European politicians, professional journalists and experts, and engage in an intercultural exchange through practical media production. This year's opening panel discussion focused on the stereotypes in media. Among the speakers was Stephen Fiedler from the Wall Street Journal.
It's not a journalist's job to break stereotypes, but neither, of course, is it a journalist's job to reinforce them. Why do I say that? I say it because once you start adjusting what you're writing because you don't want to do, say, reinforce a stereotype, you're starting to self-censor. You're censoring what you're writing. And once you've started doing that, when does that stop? As journalists, we have to deal with the world that we really live in and not the sort of world we think we'd like to live in.
Laila Harak focused on the financial crisis' impact on the media quality.
Evidently, the financial crisis has, impacted every industry, and in particular, I think, television, because television is a very costly endeavor. Okay, it's expensive to make television. In essence, budgets have been slashed. People are now working with a less number of staff. So in practice, what this means is that everybody's stretched. So you have to do the same or a lot more because also the output has increased drastically. Deadlines are real time. You have an online edition. You have all these different mediums that you have to cater to. So it makes for that the staff members reach out to the same people. And what would be helpful is, for instance, that you would, when you have time, to come up with a contact list that is as varied as possible.
Hosted by the European Parliament and organized in collaboration with the European Youth Press, the event promotes a broad discussion and networking on European issues. With 100 participants, the European Youth Media Days is one of the biggest events in Europe dedicated to young journalists. MEP Tanja Fajon highlights the importance of cooperation between the Brussels politicians and journalists.
I personally would advise to the parliamentarians as well, for the sake of the institution of the transparency, to speak with journalists, because it's important that we are capable of selling our decisions to public, because if we don't communicate with our citizens through the media, we will not sell our decisions as good ones.
The European Parliament has its secret doors, and the European Youth Media Days participants learn how to find their way to the best stories of the day. Reporting from Brussels, Gabriela Torvald.
More than 350 people drowned after a boat with refugees sank near the Italian coast of Lampedusa. This has again opened the debate on immigration.
Has the red line been crossed? Is European Union becoming European fortress? With theoretically inexistent internal borders within the Schengen area, the external borders have to deal with multiple disasters.
Our own countries have the obligation, to be not so selfish, to think only about our economy. Everything nowadays is economy. It's not people, but now economy that goes up and down. Instead, we have to think about how best and how much we can help, especially young people.
According to numbers of UN Agency for Refugees, already 30,000 people fled to Italy since last January. Every year, on average, 800 of them drown in the Mediterranean waters.
We have to understand that the European Union not only has a negative and rigid financial side, but also a side of solidarity. We have to understand that we have to solve these problems in a common way.
comprendere che questi sono problemi che devono essere gestiti a un livello diciamo comune.
President of the European Commission, José Barroso, promised 30 million euros to Italy. Commissioner for Home Affairs, Cecilia Malmström, urged for sea patrols. But will this be enough?
It's not for the European Commission or the European Parliament to just put a sticking plaster on it, as is happening now, with some extra budget for Frontex. It's for those big member states, some of the richest countries in the world, to say, look, not to pretend to their citizens that, somehow this is a mistake, but to just tell their citizens that there was a common asylum system which they agreed to, that they're not implementing.
What will happen depends on political will. External borders are in fact one of many issues of European Union. Yet should those responsible use the momentum and act, or Lampedusa will be remembered by Africans not as a European dream but rather as a European nightmare. Niels Timmermans and Veronika Petrova, Brussels.
The Lampedusa tragedy has brought immigration and refugee policy to the top of the European agenda. This happened only a few months after the European Union endorsed a new system to ease the process for seeking asylum.
Brussels, as well as many other European cities, have become multicultural melting pots, and right-wing parties throughout the EU member states argue that the borders are too open. Still, the tragic boat accident off the coast of the Italian island Lampedusa has shown that crossing these borders can be fatal. In June, the EU Parliament endorsed the new Common European Asylum System. The system aims to ease and quicken the application process, guarantee medical support and humane housing facilities, and protect against detention. Most importantly, it will ensure that asylum seekers are treated equally, as long as they're applying from inside the EU. This means that for the people who drowned before reaching the shores of Italy, the system would not have made a difference. For Dirk van den Bulk, the system is important, but its weakness is the lack of protection of refugees before reaching the EU borders.
It's a question of enforcement of the policy of protection in the region. This means also more financial aid to come to a better organization of also camps and so on. But secondly, also more possibility of resettlement. This means that Europe, member states, let come over refugees or fly over to Europe and start a new life in Europe.
Other critics of the new asylum system argue that it will put a strain on the European borders. On his website, Member of Parliament from the UK Independence Party, Gerard Batten, writes, "These new EU procedures on asylum are to ensure that it is easier for people to come and stay in rich European countries like the UK." Last year, around 100,000 people were granted asylum in EU member states. The largest receiving countries, compared to their size, are Germany, Sweden and Malta. Still, compared to other parts of the world, Europe only receives a small fraction. According to the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, there's a tendency to increasingly guard the European borders.
We think that more of a focus in recent years on border management means that actually it's more difficult than it ever has been to get into the European Union. And for us, the concern is to ensure that there are safeguards there so that people who might need refugee protection can get access to that.
While half of the world's refugees reside in Asia, the majority of Afghanis in Pakistan and Iran, Europe hosts only 15%. The UNHCR has been active in advocating for the new Common European Asylum System. It is happy to see EU member states improve the conditions for refugees in Europe, but says it's not enough.
We think it's very problematic that we have European countries sending the message to a country like Turkey that they need to keep their borders open for asylum seekers coming from Syria on the one hand, but keep their borders closed for people who would move onwards to the European Union on the other side.
The Common European Asylum System shows that Europe has become more focused on the protection and fair treatment of refugees. While some criticize the system for not safeguarding refugees before and during their journey to Europe, others find the gates of the European Union too open. So when does the responsibility of the EU begin? Lina Otgård, Brussels. The European Commission wants to invest about 1.1 billion euros in order to avoid illegal immigration in the Schengen area. Under the Smart Borders package, all non-European visitors would be fingerprinted. The package is still being discussed among parliamentarians.
This is the sound you need to get used to when you travel from one European country to another in the future.
In February, the European Commission will have the proposal for the Smart Borders package ready. A part of the system is to take fingerprints and thereby register people traveling in Europe.
It would be helpful because the number of travelers is increasing year by year. So it would be helpful to have a technical system that would make the border controls faster.
700 million people move in and out of the European Union each year. Under the new measures, some 100 million people annually will have prints taken from each of their 10 fingers on entry or exit. But not all parliamentarians are satisfied with the package.
I think the Smart Borders package will be a disaster for the European Union. It costs a lot of money. It doesn't serve any purpose that is anyhow visible because it won't bring anything apart from statistics. But why should we spend so much money on mere statistics?
This system will cost around 1.1 billion euros. But Renate Sommer thinks it is all worth it.
There are immigrants that throw their passports away, and if you have fingerprints or other biometric data, you could identify them.
EU authorities say state-of-the-art technology will speed up border crossings and improve security. The exact location and time of entry and exit will be recorded and stored as well.
Comes like the Council wants, namely with law enforcement access, with biometric data, etc., it will hugely discriminate against foreigners.
If approved by the European Parliament, the package is set to be launched either in 2015 or 2016. But only time will show if the Smart Borders proposal is in fact the best solution.
If the European Union is a fort, there always will be ways to infiltrate through its cracks. Usually it's through illegal immigration, asylum or marriage. But Moldova, a small country in Eastern Europe, has its own know-how.
After 3 years, a passport of a Moldovan citizen who travels abroad time to time doesn't have any blank pages. Everything is filled with visas. But a big chunk of Moldovans are eligible to get Romanian citizenship through a restoration program and together with it, unlimited access to the Schengen zone. Most of them are looking for attractive job opportunities. But this is not the case of Inna, a makeup artist from Moldova's capital Chisinau.
I decided to get Romanian citizenship because it lets me travel without borders. My mom lives in Italy, also I have friends in England, Germany, Poland. Now I can visit them anytime I want, without time-consuming and humiliating procedures.
Before Second World War, Romania and Moldova was one country. Soros Foundation Romania expert Sergiu Panainti believes that granting citizenship is a sovereign and fundamental right of a Romanian state, and it's insignificant comparing to the same process in UK or France.
In case of Romania, and specifically with regard to the Moldovan nationals, this policy of granting citizenship is a, let's say, historic right, because those were citizens deprived of their Romanian citizenship abusively.
At the same time, only 2% of 3.5 million Moldovan population identify themselves as Romanians. Approximately 300,000 Moldovans already received Romanian passports. The rights of preceded applications get in the line with Romania's accession to the EU in 2010. European Parliament member from the UK Independence Party, Roger Helmer, says although he appreciates Moldova's notion to become closer to Europe, he sees migration as a threat.
If you have any kind of free movement in Europe, then immigrants in one country are not just a problem for that country, they are a problem for all the other countries as well.
President of the European Economic and Social Committee Henry Malossa has a different perspective, saying that visa regime is not the best invention of a humankind.
Our main threat is the demographic challenge, the fact that our population is decreasing or not increasing anymore. So we know that in Europe we need in the next 30 years 20 million migrants.
Injustice, frustration, anger. These feelings are permanently experienced by Moldovans and other non-EU citizens trying to get to the fort called Europe. But yet, it still seems like a weak argument for the European Union to be more open. Thus, they are fated to use different backdoor opportunities for mobility.
The European Commission is opening up the Erasmus exchange program to students from all over the world. The change happens under a new program that aims to improve higher education in Europe. Every year, more than 200,000 European students study abroad under the Erasmus exchange program. The demand for higher education is expected to rise from 99 million students to 414 million students in less than 20 years. The head of higher education and the Erasmus program at the European Commission, Mr. Adam Tyson, explains how important it is to draw international students to Europe.
It's important for Europe that we offer high-quality educational opportunities for people from outside. Partly, of course, because this can help with building the capacity of systems in other countries, particularly when we're talking about developing countries. It's very important to offer those opportunities, but also because it's the contacts that you build up between universities through student mobility and staff mobility, which can later on lead into research partnerships, which are also very important, economically and socially for Europe later on. So it's a win-win situation by building up these links.
The European Commission wants to give the opportunity to 2 million students to participate in the Erasmus exchange program in the next 7 years. Studying abroad is a lifetime experience that shapes individuals forever. Teils Camargo from Brazil is studying in Germany thanks to a German scholarship.
I think it's very nice because it gives us a very good opportunity to come into Europe, and I think it's very important. This opportunity makes a difference in career for students because they'll be able to be fluent in another language besides Portuguese or Spanish, and also it's a great life experience.
The exchange program will be expanded to students worldwide starting this January. The new Erasmus allows students from Europe to go to places as America and Africa, and in return, students from these places come to Europe. This is all from the European Youth Media Days 2013. I'm Silvia Amaro.
And I'm Lina Odgor. Thank you for watching and see you again next year. Goodbye.
Goodbye.